C. So I'm Vice Chair Kallman, and I'll be chairing this meeting, which will not be an official meeting for a few minutes yet until our fourth member arrives and we have quorum. But we're not going to wait around for that. We will start unofficially, but Mr. Jerry Byrne is here to give us an update on annual report from the Kent County Road Commission.
And thank you for having us today. We appreciate this. We like to keep the board informed. We want to keep this informal. Obviously, it's a smaller group than normal, so please interrupt and ask questions throughout this presentation. We're going to start off with a little video clip that our staff put together. Just kind of, we use it to help explain who we are, who staff is, and we think it's just a good way to start the presentation. The staff of the Kent County Road Commission is responsible for over 12 million vehicle miles traveled every single day in Kent County. Our core function is to provide safety for those motorists, and we're going to adjust to fit that strategy based on the dollars that we have. It's always great to collaborate with our neighbors and other transportation agencies because, yes, we're the largest in this county, but the cities also provide their own transportation. So it's important for us to collaborate with them because the motorists generally don't know which jurisdiction they're driving, and quite frankly shouldn't, because motorists should get the same level of service as close as possible.
So when you have a problem and you need to find a solution, if you know someone else that has dealt with that, then it's the reach out, the helping each other. The collaboration is really coming, it allows us to come up with different ideas and different innovation.
We have 255 employees, 4 complexes, and we have 6 divisions. Our finance department, we have our engineering department, our maintenance, which has roughly 125 drivers. We have our building and equipment division, our traffic and safety division, and lastly is the human resource department, which supports our employees and retirees. With the community and the public that we serve, there's a lot of pride that goes with that.
When we think about our major source of revenue, we're typically talking about the Michigan Transportation Fund, also known as the MTF, that is comprised of registration fees, fuel tax. There's a small amount of other things that go into it and come out of it, but the majority of what the Kent County Road Commission receives is related to that. We're involved in receiving federal aid for projects as well, so we capture as much of that as we can in the region and use that on our federal aid eligible network. We also have fantastic partnerships with our townships. Township matching program is about 10% of our revenue annually. The goal of all the resources we get is to put it on the roads as effectively and efficiently as possible.
Any given year, based on what our funding looks like, it might change your strategy to stretch dollars out and address as many roads, as many bridges as we can. Aging infrastructure is a constant battle, and we do the best we can with the resources we're afforded to keep the public moving.
Our overall priority is to maintain a safe network for the traveling public. The Traffic and Safety Division maintains over 35,000 traffic signs that are out on the road. We partner with the City of Grand Rapids for a regional signal optimization program to optimize corridors throughout the network as well, and that's region-wide.
We're responsible for nearly 2,000 centerline miles of road, represents over 4,200 lane miles of road, whether that be a paved primary like a West River, all the way down to a gravel road like a Porter Hollow, from the centerline out to the edges of those roads. Preservation is an important tool that we have. By keeping them in good condition, we're able to extend the life and the longevity of that road in good condition. We really have the ability with working with our equipment division, the same equipment with maybe some adaptations to kind of keep that equipment on the road doing multiple different things.
We build our trucks from the ground up. We get the cabin chassis in and we build them up into the plow trucks that we need. They're built our way. They do multiple things throughout the year. We design these to make those changes quick and efficient, as productive as possible.
You know, we're often viewed as a second responder, but the reality in emergency, we're really the first responder, because if police and fire can't get there because the road is too much snow or there's trees down, our men and women are really the true first responders that oftentimes are in front of police and fire, making sure those responders can get to accident scenes.
Oops, sorry.
You're right.
I think I shut down our Canva. Here we go. There we go. There you go, and then you can just.
First off, what would we do without good support and good staff? As directors, managers, we would all be in trouble, right, Al? All right, so, again, when people think of the Kent County Road Commission, they think it's all about us, nobody else takes care of the road, it's just those green trucks. We like to make sure everybody understands, from the commissioners to the public, there's really the Kent County Road Commission, and then there's cities and villages that maintain their own streets. Obviously, we combined have more than they do combined, but it is about everybody takes care of their own, but we do work together. Roads are rated like report cards, if you will. It's a pretty basic system. It's called the PESA rating. It's recognized nationwide. It's basically 1 to 10. Okay, 10 being good, 1 being bad. If you look at how we rate and how we compare, our federal aid system, and let me explain this, federal aid doesn't mean it's federal aid, it means we get our federal gas and fuel tax back to us. It's taxes we pay, we get back to us. It's not aid from Washington, it's our dollars coming back. But if you look at that federal aid system, only certain roads get that, and for Kent County, it's just shy of 600 miles. Our federal aid rated roads are 74% good fare. Okay, we're really proud of that because that far exceeds the state average. It exceeds what the cities and villages are. We're very proud of that fact. And to really emphasize that, if you look at the last chart there, it talks about how much we get in MTF, and you saw Macy talk about that. Those are state dollars we get, the Michigan Transportation Fund. Road commissions get we get $7,300 a mile for primaries. Cities and villages get $9,000 a mile, okay? We like to explain that because sometimes the road commission will get critiqued because we don't do some of the extras, some of the frills, if you will, because we don't get those extra dollars that cities and villages do. So we have to concentrate on our core function, that's like Steve talked about, is the travel portion of the road. Again, we talked about our primary roads, but really we're most proud about our local roads because 72% of our local roads are in good and fair condition. I would dare bet that is in about the top 2% in the state of Michigan, okay? The average is in the 40%, okay? The goal is 60% for local roads, and that's 1,300 miles of roads. Those are the roads that are really the driveways to the highway. Those are what you live on. Those are the vast majority of the roads we have are local roads. And we couldn't do that without assistance from our townships, okay? We're one of the few counties in the state that doesn't have either a countywide millage or township road millages. We do not have that in Kent County and haven't for over 50 years and probably ever, okay? I have property in Ottawa County. I pay a countywide road tax and I pay a township road tax. Again, nobody in this county pays a road millage tax, and we're very proud of that. We do that because our townships help contribute. Talk a little bit about the local cost share program. It's basically a 50-50 cost share. They put in half, we cover the other half. On total reconstruct, it's a little bit more, but overall it's about a 50% increase, or 50% cost share. Again, this slide is what was really the pride of our townships, and it's the pride of the people we serve. When I look at the amount of money that the townships contribute, it's almost doubled in 5 years. The tough part of that slide, while the money continues to increase, the number of miles we can touch decrease because of the cost of inflation for construction. We know what egg prices do, bread prices do, but construction costs have went up 50, 80, 90% depending on what you're looking at. So we're very proud of the fact that townships help contribute. We stretch those dollars, but the reality, we're touching less miles of road every year, even though we're spending. And then to point out that 9.4 million, we're matched with 50%, so just shy of 20 million cost share comes together. Now, we did receive ARPA dollars, and that helped us match those dollars. Those dollars are all spent. We told this board that you give us the money, we're going to put it on the road, and we did that in 2 years. Again, this just talks about the total amount. That 9.4 turns into just shy of $20 million. Talk a little bit about the types of improvement, because I think that's important. We changed our strategy last year. When I talked to the entire board, we talked about moving away from reconstruct, moving away from additional lanes, taking care of some congestion issues, taking care of some non-motorized, because we have to pull ourselves back in. Our funding hasn't increased, but our costs have. So we really are getting away from construction, where we touch the entire roadway from the ground up, which means a sub-base, drainage, new curbs, everything new, to just taking care of the surface treatment that people drive on. Our primary road improvement projects for this year, again, are pared down. And because we are working with our Drain Commission on a couple of these, as this commission is well aware, the 3 Mile Dunnigan tied in with a NAP drain. We've partnered with the Drain Commission to help do some total road improvements. 68th Street, partnering with Caledonia Township, Cherry Valley Avenue, another coordination with our Drain Commission. We like to partner to spread those dollars out. But again, those are about $1.2 million per lane mile to do, because we're going to start with a sub-base. We're going to go all the way up to the top. What we're doing a lot more of is simply taking care of the pavement. So we talk about pavement replacement. We're going to do 24 miles. You can see those listed there. Probably the biggest thing that the public life, it's a much shorter traffic impact, okay? They think they're getting a brand new road, and what they're driving on is brand new. What we haven't addressed are some of those base failures that should be addressed. But again, we're going to spread our dollars further, touching more miles. And one of our core functions, or our core beliefs, is we need to make sure, regardless of the population, we need to service all 21 townships. So no matter if you're in Spencer Township in the far northeast corner with a small population, or if you're in Byron, which is one of our fastest growing populations, we're going to make sure we touch every part of the county with our road improvement plan. Next, go to resurfacing. There we're doing a little bit shorter fix again. It's down to about $120,000 per lane mile, get about an 8-year service life. Again, traffic impact is only about 1 to 2 weeks. People love us. It's hot, flat, and black. You paint new pavement markings on there. People are loving it, okay? But again, it's not that long-term 20-year fix we'd like to be able to do. But what we do the most of is probably what the people hate the most. It's called pavement preservation. What idiot would put stones on a brand new pavement? Okay, that would be us, because who waxes their old car that's all rusted out? Nobody. You take care of it when it's brand new, because you get your best service life, okay? Not very popular, but super cost-benefit ratio is there. It really makes sense. Safety improvements. Roundabouts. We built the first one a couple of years ago. We have another roundabout plan for 10 Mile and Pine Island in the North Butler County, okay? It comes with mixed feelings from the public. Some people hate them. We don't know how to drive them. Nobody understands them. Do we love them? And we love them because they reduce the amount of serious injury and fatality accidents. That means the Sheriff's Department, our partners there, love them. They may, until people get used to it, have a few more property damage type accidents, but roundabouts work and they save lives, okay? Problem is, they're about $2.2 million a piece to build, okay? We get federal aid. Again, we get our federal tax money back at about $800,000 to do that. The rest of the money comes out of our pocket. So while we'd like to build more roundabouts, the reality is it takes right away and it costs money. But we do have one planned this year, and we have another one planned at 10 Mile and Myers Lake for next year. So the people in the north are going to love them. They just don't know it yet, but they will. They will, because they do save lives. Bridge improvements. Probably our biggest concern financially is our bridges, okay? The average age of our bridges is 55 years old, okay? We have 44 bridges that were built between 1920 and 1979. We have 10 bridges that we have reduced truck weights on. That doesn't mean they're unsafe. It means we're going to take the heavy trucks off so we can extend the life a little bit further. Gives us time to do some preservation, some rehabilitation, so we can get those off. But that is what concerns us the most, because those are big ticket items. Those are $5, $8, $10 million bridges that are going to need to be replaced at some point. When we talk about, this goes back, Wayne can probably help me, more than probably 50 years ago, the county assisted with getting our bridges updated about 50 years ago. Is that about the right time frame? Okay, we're mid-60s. So it was a big part of a bridge improvement plan, but again, those bridges are not at the end of their useful life, but they're getting there. So that is our biggest concern. And if and when we see some kind of transportation funding package coming out of Lansing, you're going to see a lot of our money going into those bridges. And people go, you could do, 10, 15, 20 miles for the cost of that bridge. That might be the case, but if that bridge goes out, it's going to affect a lot of people. So we're going to be spending a lot of money on small structures. Local road improvements, again, our partnership with the township is critical. You can see how many miles we're going to touch, and that's very important. From some reconstruct, we still have about 300 miles of gravel road in this county, and some of those townships would like to see them paved, and we cost share with that program. We also do improvements based on development, and that's Alpine Church. We're getting some work and some cost share with the developer. Again, total number of miles that we're going to touch. And we're pretty happy with this. It's 335 lane miles of improvement this year. We're pretty happy with that. But again, when I look at what we did in 2024, it was 378. In 2023, it was 430. The number of miles, again, we can touch keeps going down just because of inflation. And the fact that every time every one of us buys a new vehicle, we're looking for more fuel economy. 2-3 more miles per gallon means less fuel tax you pay, means less you put into it. So hopefully we have some bipartisan support to address transportation funding at the state level. We'll see what happens. We're optimistic. This comes off your own website as the 4th most populous county in Michigan, with 21 townships, 5 villages, 9 cities, each contributing a unique character. We're proud to be the 2nd fastest growing county in the state. Okay, we are proud of that. What we're not proud of is we don't have the funding to really keep the infrastructure building to accommodate that, okay? And the majority of that growth is coming in our townships. The 2010 to 2020 population census, townships combined had a total of 13.5% increase. Cities and villages had 6.6. So the growth is coming from outside of the cities, and those are the roads we have to take care of. Impact of status quo funding. We reduced our workforce over the last couple of years by 5% because of the flat income. It's going to impact our emergency response. It's going to risk our township matching program. And again, it delays that expansion of the all-season network, or the economic support network that's so critical. So we're very hopeful that at the state level they're going to address some transportation funding, because we would like to continue to be one of those few counties that doesn't have millages to support roads. Lastly, just a couple of things. There's a code there for you to pull a resource folder. Our communication department does a great job putting things out for the public, for commissioners. When you get questions from your constituents, we would suggest you send them to our website, because those questions can be asked. We also encourage you, if you get questions from your constituents, send them to us, okay? Commissioner Hildebrand sent me something last week. A constituent had some concerns, some questions. We investigated, we gave answers. Within 3 or 4 days, they were very satisfied. We don't want you just to pass them on to us, but that's what we're here for. We're here to answer those questions, to educate you and to educate the constituents. So with that, I rambled. Hopefully I stayed within my time frame. Al didn't give me the hook yet, but how about questions?
Great, and just briefly, I would like to officially call the meeting to order at 8:55 a.m. And without objection, I'm going to amend the agenda to start with an excellent presentation from Mr. Jerry Byrne of the Kent County Road Commission. So thank you. That was an excellent presentation, lots of good and helpful information, and I'm sure there are a couple questions out there. Commissioner Pakla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jerry, great to see you. Thanks for being here. You mentioned bipartisan support for changing for addressing the funding issues. Can you talk a little bit about that? And am I recalling correctly that there's a proposed change to the MTF formula that we are seeing out there in the ether somewhere?
Well, to the formula, no, but they're talking about a different pot of money that wouldn't go through the formula. I think that's what you're referring to. Right now, to the best of my knowledge, Act 51 formula is going to stay the same, but there's some funding that will work outside the formula that will put the bulk of that money to the locals, i.e. cities, villages, and road commissions. And MDOT will get 10%, the others will get 90%. So yes and no to your question.
Okay, that's great. The other question I had was, are we seeing any easing of those inflationary pressures on the construction costs? I mean, I seem to recall at a GVMC policy meeting, we heard maybe some bids are starting to come in at least at what we think they're going to be as opposed to way over them. Are we seeing any of that? Is that something that might be a shining star on the horizon?
Yes, it is a shining star. We're seeing prices either down or only up slightly in the bid process this year compared to the previous 2 years that we were looking at 10, 20% increases. So yes, I think a lot of that, to be honest with you, is supply and demand. What you're seeing is the end of the bonding at the state level, where the governor and the legislature decided to bond about $3 billion. That money is used up. So it's simply supply and demand economics. The contractors don't have as much work, they're a little more competitive pricing. So yes, we are seeing better prices.
Thank you. The final question, if I may, Mr. Chair, I recall hearing that there is coordination between the Road Commission and the Drain Commissioner. You mentioned a project today. Can you talk a little bit about what that coordination looks like from the environmental side of things too, and if there's other, I'm thinking in particular about the conversations we've had over the past few years about Church Lake and some of the impacts about, road salts and the great work that you all do to sort of minimize the salt that's going on the roads.
So again, we look at, whenever we do an improvement, what can we do within the financial constraints to address those issues, okay? I'm gonna spin to Dean Lake, because that's another area that with the Drain Commission right now, and theirs is the volume of water. The odd thing about Dean Lake, and I grew up there, is they used to have to pump it to fill it, to get water in it. Now there's too much water in it, and they're worried about contaminants. But we did a program with Plainfield Township where we put infiltration structures in, which basically just means perforation in your pipes and perforation in your catch basins, so it goes into the groundwater rather than directly into the lakes, okay? So I think that's the answer. Church Lake, we just cleaned the drain there for those residents. That's kind of a unique situation because there's 4 jurisdictions that drain into that. There's also a lot of private property contamination, if you will, from salt that goes into that. But we are working on, we're reduced about 15% of our salt use over the past 10 years, and we'll continue to do that through technology, through training. But when it's slippery, nobody really wants to talk about reductions. They want to talk about them in March, but nobody talks about them in January when they're crashing, and we're getting those calls. But we do, through technology, continue to reduce that, continue to work with Ken at the Drain Commission, and with those cities. Church Lake has been an issue for a long time. We put structures in at MDOT. We don't personally have any direct or very little direct involvement. We have a little bit in Grahams Township, but most of it's coming off the East Bell Line or private parties.
Well, thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Commissioner Faber.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you. So I have family near Whitneyville Avenue, and during this last tornado that came through, I heard nothing but great things about you and your crew and the cleanup efforts, so thank you for that. I also have family on Buttrick, so I got to turn on to a brand new road on Sunday for Sunday dinner, so thank you for that.
You're welcome for both.
Yeah.
Staff does a great job. So
yeah,
good.
well, very strategic, thank you. So I did want to ask a couple questions. One, can you talk a little bit about your commitment to kind of the non-motorized trails? And I know with the new Greenway project kind of coming around the northern side of the city, how you're partnering with parks to continue to invest in non-motorized or dedicated lanes for pedestrians, the non-motoring public, so to speak. And then, yeah, I'll just go with that one for right now.
All right, let's talk about the joint project with the Park Department. We work very closely with them to permit those facilities within the right-of-way. We do not have any dedicated non-motorized lanes on our system, okay? We have bike paths. They're not dedicated, okay? They're also paved shoulders for the motorists to use. Those separated facilities that we're talking about with the DP, or with parks, or with a number of our townships that have facilities, we work with them in the right-of-way, we permit them, and we accommodate those, but again, we do not fund those total non-motorized. We put the paved shoulders so both can use them. And again, it's really based on that funding mechanism that cities and villages get that we don't get. We do have to contribute at least 1% of our MTF to non-motorized, but again, we do that through those combined sources, those combined uses.
And then just commentary, I think, road funding is continually an issue, and building the political will to either raise or change the gas tax. I personally will be an advocate for moving towards a vehicle miles traveled model. I think Commissioner Packlin and I both drive fully EV vehicles. My family mostly drives hybrids. We're moving in that direction, thankfully, but obviously that puts constraints on the budget. So, I think generally speaking, we need to be looking at how we're going to more equitably fund roads.
And we couldn't agree more. I currently have the privilege of being the president of the County Road Association, which represents 83 counties statewide. And they have really taken the lead on this, something different than the fuel tax. Okay, what that's going to look like, I'm not sure. We actually have a meeting next week with state legislators. We're bringing in people from outside the state that are in front of Michigan, looking at some kind of vehicle miles travel. And I think you're right, that is where we have to go, but that transition, we need to figure that out. Because again, you drive an EV, you're not paying the same mileage that somebody is that maybe can't afford, because they can't afford our newer vehicles. The people that really are paying the most are the ones that can't afford to get the better vehicle, to get the better fuel economy. They're driving that, 82 Suburban, whatever, and getting 12 miles a gallon. So it needs to be addressed, and we are working at the County Road Association. We're taking lead really in front of the state at pushing folks to it. But there's privacy issues. I'll be honest with you. Politically, it's a tough sell because people think they're being tracked. We have to get by that.
Any other questions, comments? I'd just like to add, thank you for the great presentation. I was struck by the 12 million miles per day of people driving around Kent County. So enabling everything that happens here, from business and commerce to school and all the other various activities, and we wouldn't be able to do it without good roads. So thank you so much. I'm curious, I saw recently a news article that in Texas, in the next few weeks, you'll be able to buy a new car from Tesla and it will drive itself to your house. So I'm curious if you're anticipating any changes to the road network as we look towards a future of autonomous vehicles.
The answer is yes, but the answer is it's a long ways out. MDOT is working that on the east side of the state in Oakland, Wayne, Washtenaw County, okay, with a piece of 696. But again, the technology is not there, nor the funding to do that. But the answer is yes, but on local roads, that answer is it's a ways off. But if you think about it, let's think about most vehicles today have lane assist. Okay, that's a type of autonomous vehicle, because we hope and pray people don't take their hands off the steering wheel and rely on that. But we're committed to put more pavement markings, wider pavement markings to accommodate. So the answer is yes to some degree, But I also think we need to be cautious, especially with the young drivers, and the undersheriff can probably speak on this if he wanted to, or he might want to stay away from it. But part of the problem is the vehicles become too automated and people can't drive with their skills that they should have, and that's with their own bodies and their eyes. During winter maintenance, we see that as law enforcement. You know, we talk about distracted driving. Well, the car drives for me. I don't have to. Well, no, you don't. You have to drive yourself if you want to be safe. So I think there's that balance that drivers, especially young drivers, have to learn. Automation isn't about driving the car for you. You still have a responsibility to drive yourself. So I don't know if that answers, but we are getting there with just simple pavement working is a good example of that automation.
Yeah. Any last questions, comments? Thank you so much for the presentation this morning.
And again, it's about staff. We couldn't do it without our staff. Maura and Afia put this together because it shouldn't look as good if we'd have done that with our road staff. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Moving next to public comment. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak? Seeing none, I would like to give a special welcome to Commissioner Packla's daughter, Maura, who is taking some time out from piano camp this week. Welcome, Maura. Thank you for being here. Next, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes. Thank you, Commissioner Packla, and support from Commissioner Womack. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you. Now we will move on to our agenda items. The first this morning comes from the Department of Public Works. And Al, do you want to update?
Yes, the action requested is to approve a utility easement with Consumers Energy for the North Kent Transfer Station Recycling Facility. Summary, the Department of Public Works recycling facility located at the North Kent Transfer Station requires an upgrade to the electrical service to accommodate recently installed baling and densifier equipment. Consumers Energy has provided a utility easement required to bring the new service into the recycling facility.
Well, I guess we need a motion first on this to put it on the table. Thank you, Commissioner Packla. Support from Commissioner Womack. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Packla.
I just wanted to thank County DPW staff for the improvements to necessitate such increases in the amperage going up there. So thank you.
Commissioner Faber.
Thank you. Yeah, similar congrats on getting the foam densifier and now the baler. That is a huge asset for our community. I've been able to use it a couple times, take stuff up there for my friends. So if nobody has used that yet, please head up to North Kent Transfer Station with all of your polystyrene. And if it snaps, it can go there.
And we have Darbas from the Department of Public Works with us this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. We have people coming from Big Rapids, not that we're advertising up there, to use the densifier. And we'll continue to offer those in other locations. The main reason for the upgraded service is that we have to run both compacting equipment, the densifier, and the new baling equipment. So right now we're throwing a big switch and having to switch back and forth, and Consumers Energy is going to upgrade the amperage so that we can run all the equipment simultaneously. So thank you.
Thank you. And I've heard those are also Commissioner Faber's relatives. So. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the easement for the utility easement from Consumers Energy signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. One more this morning from the Department of Public Works, Eagle MMPC grant approval. Al?
Yes, action requested to accept the 2025 Eagle Materials Management Planning Program grant in the amount of $194,188.57. Summary, on December 20, 2023, the Eagle Director notified counties that the state was initiating the materials management planning process starting January 8, 2024. The Kent County Board of Commissioners approved moving forward with the planning process, appointed a Materials Management Planning Committee, which we call the MMPC, the Kent County Board of Works as a designated planning agency, and its Department of Public Works providing staff support to the MMPC and planning process. On February 20, 2025, the MMPC submitted a work program, schedule, and budget in the amount of $194,188.57 to Eagle that was approved for funding.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion. Commissioner Womack has moved, and support from Commissioner Faber. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Pakla.
I just had a quick one for Dar here. I noticed that we did not add any indirect costs into the grant budget. Can you remind me, did the state put restrictions on what was allowed in terms of those sort of overhead costs that aren't easily identifiable on a budget, or was that just a choice that we made here?
I think it was a choice that we made. We built in the, a percentage of staff time, both myself and several other staff people, along with some dollars for consulting assistance, and built that into the budget. We actually qualified for, I think, a total of $360,000, but only chose to use the 194. We have to watch it closely, but our understanding is that we're able to move those dollars forward. And we'd like to put that into infrastructure, but really thought the committee needed to seat and spend some time looking at things before we made a recommendation on where we might spend the dollars instead or in the future. We'll be coming back in the following 2 years for additional funding requests. This is something that's being funded really 100% by the state, since it's a mandated effort. But we'll be coming back year over year. Our first year is to really do a gap analysis and spend time kind of bringing the committee up to speed. Second year is, and with that, then also do some community and public engagement. Our second year is to begin to draft the plan and kind of put all the thought around the work. And then our third year would be coming back to the Board of Public Works, Board of Commissioners, and then 2/3 of the communities that need to approve it to move it on to the state. So it's a 3-year process. We're in year 1.
That's great. If I might, Mr. Chair, one more. I've had some conversations with other communities about concerns around the timeline of their MMPC process, you know, specifically concerns about this 3-year timeline, and there are other communities that are less organized than ours are, and they're concerned that they might get to that point where they're ready to spend those dollars, and all of a sudden the state has said your timeline's done. It sounds as though we are ahead of the curve in terms of being able to get those funds identified through the gap analysis and then ready to move. Is that accurate, that we're sort of on the vanguard of this movement forward?
I think we're in a good place. We actually held back just a little because the state staff and process, they were trying to figure it out themselves. It's been a long time, probably over 20 years, maybe longer, since the state initiated a statewide rewrite. Used to be the solid waste management plan, now it's the materials management plan. So our colleagues in Ottawa County actually were a lot ahead of us, and so we were kind of watching and listening and seeing the engagement that they had with the state. It appears that the state is starting to push out more and more information and providing more guidance, but to those counties that don't have staff and aren't accustomed to this process, I could see where they could get behind. The state seems to have been fairly flexible so far, I think, with that understanding. But I think we're in a good place because we'll have the bulk of the work done this year, which is really the first full year of the planning process, and then we'll go into the drafting and writing of the plan. So I think we're in a good place. We didn't want to be too far out in front because everyone was trying to figure it out, but we didn't want to be, in the back, on the tail end. But fortunately, Board of Commissioners acted quickly and seated the committee, and because of staff experience at our DPW, I think we ramped up pretty quickly. So I think we're in good condition. Good.
That's great. Well, as always, thank you for your great work.
Thank you.
Commissioner Faber?
Yeah, thank you. Could you, I noticed on the timeline, October, it looks like we'll begin some more community engagement. Could you just talk briefly about what the preliminary thinking is about what that might look like, how commissioners might be able to help you in that effort to get the word out, get more people involved in this planning process?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Faber. I think what we're looking at right now is 2 different approaches. One is survey. The second one is to actually bring in a consultant to assist us with one-on-one engagement, or at least group engagement. It's a little tricky for us because it's hard to get people in a room interested in talking about this, but we're working with an outside consulting firm, Byron Fiske, you may know them, along with our communications manager. So they're building out a plan right now about how best to do that, but we're also looking for input and suggestions because trying to ramp up and get people to think about this in a relatively short time could prove some challenges. So we've had great community engagement around composting and food waste recycling, and we may use some of that modeling from last year to help inform the best way to do it coming into this fall. But yeah, we're hopeful that our committee is, for the most part, has all the information they need. We'll move into that community engagement. We'll continue to define what that looks like, and then pull the trigger on that in the fall.
Great. And just one more. If I recall, we're eligible to receive about $1 million over the course of the 3 years for the planning effort. The goal was to maybe not spend that all on consultants, but actually move that into some of the implementation of whatever we come up with for our plan. Has anything substantially or substantively changed at the state level since this was sort of announced last year, or we're still heading for a 30% recycling rate goal by 2030, 45 sometime in the future? Anything else kind of that we need to be aware of that's shifted at all at the state level?
So from what we're hearing from the state, those goals are still in place. So it's that 30% by 2030 and then 45% beyond that. We're still needing to look back at how we measure recycling versus how the state's measuring it and making sure we align. We just recently received a guidance on how to, what's going to be required to make sure that to ensure that you have accessibility to recycling. So they're defining for us, and I think last week we received it, how many people have access to curbside, and if they don't have access to curbside, then you're going to have to build out drop-off sites, and what does that look like? One of the things I've tasked my staff with is the whole multifamily situation, because the state really didn't address it in the guidance. They're talking about the availability of curbside recycling, but it really doesn't tackle the multifamily challenge that we've identified and have known we've had for years. The other thing that we're looking at is that we're hearing from the state that if we don't spend the funding that's allocated and available to us in total, like in year 2, it's not necessarily guaranteed to be there in year 3. So we're listening closely, and we may push a much larger budget ask next year, along with some infrastructure ideas so that we don't lose the funding. Because again, we don't want to spend more than it takes to do the plan, but we're leaving the difference of 360 and 194 on the table when we actually qualify for those funds to be spent here in Kent County. So I would say that's the other thing that we're watching closely. Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Just for my colleagues' knowledge, I do sit on this committee, and thank you, Dar, for getting it all organized and rolling. Will you just briefly mention kind of the overall makeup of this committee and,
Sure.
and who's involved?
Sure, be happy to. So by state statute, the Board of Commissioners appointed members according to who they represent. So currently we have Fred Sawyers. He's the area manager for WM, and he represents community business. James Hurt, now retired, and John Gorney from Grand Rapids has replaced him as a composter anaerobic digestion operator. Mayor Steve Kepley as an elected city official. Of course, Commissioner Coleman representing Kent County Commission. We have James Ellis. He's a township elected official. He's, I think, the clerk of Cannon Township. Dan Schoonemaker. He's an environmental interest group, Michigan Sustainable Business Forum. We have Logan Kurcharski. He's general manager of a compost-type facility. He's in materials management. Then we have Russ Borsma. He's a managed materials hauler. He's with Aero Waste. Tim White from a recovery facility. He's the vice president for his company. David B., he's our regional planning agency representative. We have Tom Mahoney, who's the general manager locally here for Republic. And Carrie Bliss, who's actually our chair, and she's a representative from a waste diversion facility, and she, of course, works for PEDNIS. So that rounds out the committee that's seated and meeting once a month as we walk through the process.
Thank you very much, Star. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The motion is approved. That brings us to miscellaneous. Is there any commissioner miscellaneous this morning? Seeing none, I'd just like to thank those who are here this morning so that we could accomplish this business. Thank you to Dar for the work on these agenda items, and again to all those members of the Road Commission who are here to give us great information this morning. And with that, we are adjourned.